starting today in the Liverpool Central School District. I'm Keely Sullivan, and I'll have that story coming up for you today at NCC News at 4:45. Stay tuned.
Residents in a central New York town found lead levels as high as those in Flint, Michigan.
A fire left the home devastated and sent one to the hospital.
The newest Marvel movie is trending now, but not just for the main star Captain America. The NCC News 4:45 report starts now.
People in the Liverpool Central School District are turning out today to vote on renovating their schools. Good evening, I'm Nina Rogers.
And I'm Mike Allen. This is part of a long-term capital investment project that, if voted in, will put money towards school buildings in the district in need of an upgrade. NCC News reporter Keely Sullivan has just returned from Liverpool High School and is live in the studio with our top story.
Liverpool schools could be on the threshold of getting an upgrade. Most of the renovations would take place at Liverpool High School. But the real question is whether or not residents think renovations are worth a tax increase over the next 15 years. $39.5 million. That's how much is at stake during today's vote. Voters say this is a good number and trust the school board officials with the figure.
Oh, I trust them. They have to know what they're doing, and I assume that they are doing the best that they can with the amount of money that they have.
Parents, teachers, and Liverpool residents alike are making their way down to the polls. For those who vote yes, they're voting to use a bond from the state education department and additional funds from the district. This would result in a higher tax, an almost $14 increase per year over the next 15 years. But voters are saying this is protocol for a good education.
Well, I think we need to continue as a district to upgrade our buildings, which will help our community and our children, and that's why I voted yes for the vote.
Not only is the gymnasium in Liverpool High School the place to cast your vote, but this also might be one of the facilities that gets a renovation if Liverpool votes yes. In addition to the gymnasium, the school's choral room, auditorium, cafeteria courtyard, and more would undergo renovations. And not only would Liverpool High School itself undergo the renovations, but the Transportation Center in the former Wetzel Road Elementary building would also get funds set aside for an upgrade. Reporting live in the studio, Keely Sullivan, NCC News.
Voters in the district have until 9 tonight to cast their ballot at Liverpool High School in the gymnasium.
Liverpool students may also be getting a few extra hours of sleep before school. The school district is considering a plan to start the school day later for middle and high school students. The proposal hopes to have the start time of school better align with the natural sleep patterns of young people. The American Academy of Pediatrics says the average American teenager doesn't fall asleep until 11 p.m., and 1/3 of teenagers report falling asleep in school. Liverpool's superintendent says he is looking at all sides to see how effective this could be. Senator Chuck Schumer introduced legislation to test for lead in New York schools. The $100 billion given to the schools throughout the state would be to test water supplies. This follows the discovery of lead in the water of 2 Ithaca elementary schools. Schumer noted that children ages 6 and below are at greatest risk for not developing properly due to lead.
Private well water in Jefferson County is just as bad as the water in Flint, Michigan. Residents in the small town of Orleans fear their water is so salty that it's causing lead to enter their main supplies. The town has been petitioning the state for nearly 4 years now for municipal water, but to no avail. Instead, most residents had their water sourced from private wells, for which the EPA has no standards. Syracuse is 23rd in poverty rate amongst U.S. cities. The Census Bureau adds that half the children in the city are living in poverty. Nearly 2/3 of the population of Syracuse is white, as opposed to 25% who are African American. And yet, there are almost as many poor African Americans as there are poor white people. However, it's the city's Latino population that suffers from poverty the most, with over half living below the poverty line. Note that the poverty line for a family of 4 is an income of just over $24,000. Nearly 1/3 of the city's people are using the food stamp program.
A new University of California, Berkeley study finds that 3 million New Yorkers would be helped by an increase to $15 an hour minimum wage. The city of Syracuse, where nearly 35% of residents live in poverty, could especially find the changes useful. A raise from the current $9 an hour would give the average minimum wage worker a raise of nearly $5,000 annually. The New York State Health Department will now provide free Zika virus testing for all women who may be at risk for the virus. The test will specifically be for pregnant women who had unprotected sex during their pregnancy with a partner who traveled to an area where Zika is spreading. This decision comes now that the state is investigating one potentially sexually transmitted case of the Zika virus. Of the more than 1,400 patients tested for Zika in New York State, 41 have tested positive.
The driver involved in a car crash in Tully is recovering after their Jeep Wrangler crashed this morning. The driver was accompanied by their dog, who is now being taken care of by a neighbor and is expected to be okay too. The pair was rescued just after 12:30 this morning when the truck rolled over and crashed onto the porch of a house on State Street. Firefighters are investigating the cause of the crash. One person has been hospitalized due to last evening's fire in Fulton. Earlier reports said someone had been trapped inside. Those have been confirmed false. The house is on Erie Street between North 3rd and North 4th Streets. The fire ignited the house at around 5:30 yesterday. While the fire was calmed down within a half hour, it caused extensive damage to the house and many of the belongings inside.
Inside is completely water damaged. The ceiling's all fallen in. Pretty much, there's hardly anything savable. It's pretty much all damaged.
There remains no word on the health of the person who was hospitalized.
The Oswego law enforcement is charging a Scriba man for intentionally setting an abandoned apartment on fire last May. William Lehman is now being held in Oswego County Jail for a third-degree arson felony. No one was hurt as the building had been vacant before the fire. Today, our reporter met with a former felon who spoke out about the less covered struggles of returning to society after jail.
Felons in the U.S. are unable to vote on county, state, or presidential levels. In this election in particular, that may be a problem.
Participation is often called the only way to save this country. Between Democrats and Republicans exists a population of citizens whose lives are deeply affected by these decisions, but don't get a vote. Are you fucking kidding me? Haley says that the state's efforts to educate her on her rights after her release were very minimal. Laws about post-felony voting vary from state to state but can be found online. Reporting live in the studio, I'm Janae Suter.
The man who pled guilty to murdering his son in Seneca County has been brought to court for a second murder. Carl Carlson killed his son to claim insurance money 2 years ago. As a result, law enforcement in California looked into the death of his wife. Investigators discovered Carlson had taken out an insurance policy on his wife before her death. If convicted, Carlson faces life without parole.
It looks like Syracuse is saying goodbye to winter a little earlier this year and all of the joys that come with it. Mayor Stephanie Miner has announced the Clinton Square ice rink will close early for the year because recent temperatures have been over 70 degrees. Meanwhile, the Meacham and Sunnycrest rinks remain open.
The cold is over, but it's still not picnic weather. Weather reporter Mike Allinger is out on the weather deck with our first forecast.
Thanks, Mike. As you can see, it's been raining all day. It's died down to a bit of a drizzle right now. Still pretty breezy. Not bad, though. I kind of like this weather, not going to lie. Let's take a look at current weather conditions. Temperatures 57 degrees, humidity at 100%, so still pretty humid, and the winds are blowing northwest at 12 degrees. We'll have more on the weekend weather, which is going to be much nicer right in time for St. Patrick's Day. That coming up in the full forecast. Now back to you guys.
Coming up next, the shooting last night in Pittsburgh is being called an ambush.
And later, find out what the future may look like for a traditional health services program in Syracuse.